And
Now,
away
Bob,
we go.
Bob,
Yeah.
I don't want you to spend a whole lot of money,
I won't.
but next Thursday is my birthday.
Okay. Well,
You can just combine birthday and Christmas if you want to.
I can do that, and also I have a grandbaby that will have her second birthday this coming Sunday. So
Well, we'll have to get her something too.
yeah, we
Now,
will.
let me ask you something. Ike asked me, and I couldn't remember. How did me and you meet each other?
Who?
You and me, how did we get acquainted?
I came down here and I had that white crew cab
Remember
Beauty.
that?
Okay, and they asked you if I could park it here and sell it.
Yep, okay. Well, the reason I asked, I really didn't care. Ike asked, but the main reason I asked, I wanted to make sure I didn't make that mistake again. That's been 20 years.
It's actually been 20, almost 21 years.
Yeah, I'll go along with that.
Is that right? I was looking on some items on the internet the other day, and I looked up Jefferson Academy for Women at McLeansville, North Carolina. I believe I mentioned that to you.
You ain't going to
before.
go check in, are you?
No, but there was a big 3-story building there that had all the classes in. Okay, and that was basically the college or the academy. Now the only thing that's left, they tore that 3-story building down, which we used to go up on the second floor, and we had the Grange meeting during the Second World War. You know.
Had the what?
Grange, yeah, we
Okay.
have the Grange, yeah, and we have a Grange meeting there, and of course I've been all over it, 3rd floor, in every room up
Kind
there.
of like the jail, huh?
It was
Been in every room.
it was more or less abandoned even then, but we did use the 2nd floor, and the picture they have of it is not really the picture that it was, because it had a foyer that you went into, and that's the only thing left. The foyer had a steeple on it also, which it had a big bell in, and the only thing that's left is the foyer that they made into a 5-room house. The foyer was big enough to accommodate a 5-room house.
That's a lot of wasted space, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just to pull your boots off in.
Well, they did all their bookkeeping, and I guess I don't know what all they used it for, because they tore it down when I was about maybe 12 or 13 years old, and the only thing there is that house that they took the steeple off of it, and the big old bell sat out there in the yard for years. I don't know whoever got that bell, but there's a big old bell. Now there's a big dormitory still left there where the students lived. It's a humongous frame building, real nice. It's been kept painted up and everything. And in fact, the property that the McLeansville Academy or the Jefferson Academy at McLeansville was owned by O.H. Hines, Hines.
Not Carrie's husband-in-law, was it? Wasn't John Curry's husband-in-law,
No, it's not
was it?
Carey, it's Hines, no, not Pickle Company. Okay.
Ketchup.
But these Hines were well off. I understand they had about 400 rental units in Greensboro, North Carolina. They also lived in what used to be the president of, or the chancellor of the Jefferson Academy, his house. It's a magnificent house. It's still there. Now the Hineses are dead. They're gone. They're deceased. And down below it was the teachers' parsonage where all the teachers stayed. So you had the teachers' parsonage, you had the chancellor's house, you had this big 3-story building for educational purposes, and then you had this big dormitory down there. That dormitory must be like 100 feet by 40 feet wide. And it's a 3-story unit also, and it's still standing. And then right across the street from that was the Grissom's property, who was a candidate for governor there in North Carolina in 1936.
Why are we getting this tour? You got
I don't
something
know.
planned?
I just was talking about.
I just wondered if there's something about to happen over there or something.
I hope not.
Well, who's Farmer John?
Huh?
Who's Farmer John?
You don't know John that sets up down at Tractor Supply?
Yeah.
Okay, that's him. And he bought these hats for his 85th birthday. He's 1 year older than me.
I was going to say, when you going to get you some caps? I could use a new cap. Try to get them tall ones.
Well, John's doing okay, I guess. I saw him about 2 weeks ago, and he's not getting around as good as he used to. As none of us are, I don't reckon.
No, some of us ain't anyway. I can't run them 3 miles every other day anymore.
Well, I'm trying to stay out and do right much walking, because when you walk, you can tell how out of shape you are.
Hey, I walk every day. I walk down to the lake and back at least once a day if I'm at home and it ain't raining too bad.
Right, yeah.
But it's kind of nippy out there every morning, I tell you.
If you get out before 11 or 12, it is,
I don't know. I've walked some today, not a whole lot. Let's see here. Get my odometer out here.
Right.
I guess this would be a podometer, wouldn't
Right, yeah. Pediometry.
it? Yeah. I've walked 3.5 miles today.
Well, that's good. I haven't done any walking today. I've had a bunch of stuff that I've done for other people, and I've spent about the whole day hauling other people around. Had to take one that doesn't drive down to pay his taxes, and took him to the bank and took him by the electric company, and let's see, I took him by the grocery store. And then I have one with me now that I took to Tank Springs to get water.
Does any of these people ever get in and decide they want to just walk after they see you driving?
I haven't had any of them jump out yet.
Yeah, I just wondered.
My driving is pretty good. It's my stopping that's not.
That's what I was thinking about. It ain't how you drive, it's how you stop that counts.
Yeah, you said that right.
Some people can't manage to find a semi to run into every time.
You know, with Christmas coming, this will be my 86th Christmas that I've been around here. And I'm looking forward to a few more, which I hope I do have. But, times haven't changed a whole lot in the past 80 years.
Nah, you're crazy.
I don't think they have a whole lot.
And you just ain't paying attention or something.
Right.
You know, if I can make it till January the 1st, this will be my 9th decade.
Your 9th decade.
Yeah.
Duck egg?
Yeah.
Decade. Okay.
Yeah.
Your
I
9th
got
decade.
I was in there in 49, so I got the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the noughts, and the teens, and then I'll be up to the 20s. That's
Right.
9 decades.
Right, yeah. I guess I've been about 10 decades, to see.
Yeah, you're a lot older now.
Well, 30s. I started in the 30s rather than the 40s. So
You'd have one more than me.
One more duck egg than you, yeah.
And see, I just got a little bit of that 40s, and if I can make it to January the 1st, I'll just have a little bit of them ones. They're 20s. I got the teens. I'll be in the twosies then.
Right, yeah, you will.
The 20s.
Right. But
9 decades. Count them.
40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 1, 10 to 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, that's what I said too, and he didn't believe me.
But that's
We've
all
got
right.
an audience, Bob. They're better
Yeah,
looking than you.
Where's Audie? Oh, yeah, how about that? Yeah, I know she is. We probably ought to put her on camera. Yeah, that's Holly.
Holly.
Holly, yeah. It's Holly for Christmas.
Christmas Holly.
Yeah, we're going to hang her on a tree.
You what?
We're going to hang her on a tree.
That's good. Everybody needs to be hung.
I could make a joke out of that, but I don't reckon I will.
Well, they say you did.
They says I is.
Yep. You know, this year, all this big to-do about everybody dying, and I ain't making light of anybody sick or anybody dead, but
Right.
do you realize that the Spanish flu in 1918, of course it went on longer than this one, this ain't over yet, but it killed 10 times as
Right.
many people as there is now. Now, I don't mean there was 10 times as many, although I grabbed there were 10 times as many.
Yeah.
There was, the population was
Less, much
about
less.
it was
About
just,
a
it
half.
was a little more than a third what it is now.
Right.
They had over 2 million deaths, and we've had over 200,000. That's 10 times as much.
Right.
And to do the same thing, according to population, you'd have to go 10. You have to go 30 times.
Right. Right.
That don't make this any less worrisome, but they didn't close the world back then.
No, they didn't.
They had to quit the war. They'd run out of anybody to shoot at each other.
Right. That's true. Well, they say when we get somewhere around 70 to 80% of the people vaccinated, that the herd immunity will take over.
I heard that.
Yeah, they do. And so I don't know whether that's going to happen or not, but, everybody, these hospitals and doctors, they get extra benefits from people they treat that has the virus.
Yeah.
So you come in there with a bruised foot, you're going to be listed as
Who told you about
COVID-19,
Who told you about my foot?
and they're going to collect a little extra for treating COVID-19 patients. So you're going to have it whether
you got it or
whether
not.
you got it or not, because
If you count them up as dead, you get more money, and they don't know the difference. It don't matter what they died with. They just as dead one way as they would be the other.
well, there's an awful lot of people that die from just a regular flu, But
Now, they're
I,
cured this year. They ain't dying that this year.
but I guess it's listed as COVID-19. I don't know. So I hope I would be strong enough to survive it, but I'm not going to tempt it.
No, I ain't going to lick no doorknobs.
No, I ain't either, and but I hope I would be strong enough to withstand it. But the old boy on Jeopardy, he died.
Yeah, but he didn't have that.
No, he had pancreatic cancer, I
Yeah.
believe. And but we all, like I say, we're all gonna pass away one of these days, and so you just try to do the best you can.
It's plumb crazy the way they're doing things, really. Especially out in California and up in Michigan. I don't know. Out there, I heard today that you could have a strip joint open in California, but not a church. So this church was advertising the meeting coming up as a strip joint, as a strip meeting, and everybody come on to church, we're going to have a stripper. I don't know where it's going to hang or not, but
Well, there are a lot of lawsuits in progress over this, the closing of churches and that sort of thing. So, and I think with the current makeup of the Supreme Court, that most of them will be found valid, and I don't think they can close their churches if they want to. It's like Kamala Harris, you know, she said closing churches was like sacrifices we made during the Second World War. Well, she wasn't there during the Second World War, and I was, and we didn't look on any of it as sacrifices. We looked on everything we did as a contribution to the war effort, and we never missed church.
Did you guys have to block off your headlights if you drove at night over there?
No.
They did over on the coast. I talked to an old guy, he lived over there during World War II, and they had to tape over their headlights and just leave just a little peephole in each one of them,
Right.
so that they wouldn't be as easy to, couldn't spot the roads as easy and stuff.
Right. Yeah, there was a great deal of concern that California and that Japanese submarines were going to really hit California, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't think we ever got hit.
No, they had, I think they had maybe one shelling, and I may be wrong about this, but I think they had a little shelling on the East Coast.
Yeah,
And
they
I-
did.
and I
From
think-
the German U-boats.
Yeah, and I think they may have had a one kind of a half-assed shore landing there, just
yeah,
to
they
get
did.
somebody's attention.
They did.
But they had them blame U-boats is out there sinking shipping for
Right.
before the war.
Yeah. You know what the first ship was that went down?
No.
The Lusitania.
Oh, that was World War One.
No, it wasn't, was it?
Yeah,
That's right, it was. But that was a German U-boat.
yeah, that's the one that old Hearst got that war started. He, the newspaper man. He said, you know, I need a war.
Well, yeah, but he had that one sunk down in the Bay of Cuba, at Cuba.
Mhm.
Yeah, Hearst.
Oh yeah, Lusitania. That wasn't a Lusitania.
No.
Lusitania. What was the one he sunk down there and to get the Spanish-American War
Yeah,
going?
it was the name of a state. Was it the Maine?
May have been. I believe it was.
Yeah, I believe it was also. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the war he sponsored.
Yeah, I know. He's going to he needs to sell a few more newspapers. Have you ever seen that Hearst Mansion out there, California? Oh, it is magnificent. I've never seen it in person. It's all been tours on television.
I tell you what, there's a European, and I don't know where in Europe, I forgot, but there's a European monastery reassembled down in Florida, and
I've seen that. Yeah.
and that was Hearst had that hauled over in boxes, and they put it back together. It's a
Yeah.
big old thing too.
Yeah, I know. And he had some money, and of course, you know, Patricia Hearst kind of went off the deep end.
Well, yeah, she got in the Symbionese Liberation Army.
The Symbionese Liberation Army, yeah. And then she got in jail and married one of her guards.
Well, you know, I've seen the London Bridge. You seen the London Bridge?
No, I know what it was, where it's at out in Arizona.
Yeah,
baby.
I don't really understand that. I think it must have been a attempt at a tourist attraction, and it must have not caught on because they don't make no big deal out of it. I wasn't even sure I'd found it.
Right. There wasn't no river running under, was it?
Yeah, there's a little creek there.
Yes,
There's a river, but it's not. I mean, it ain't. You don't make a big deal out of it. I thought it was there. I think my Google Maps told me it was there, and I looked, and it's got to be something besides this. This don't impress me. It's just a bridge, and it don't look like anything special. And there was. I think I finally found a plaque or something, but I expected hotels and everything.
All right. Well, you know, have you been keeping up with the election that's going to happen down in Georgia?
Yeah, I'm gonna go down and vote.
I want to too. You know, I understand there's a bunch of people going down there to vote. And
I'm gonna go vote. I'm gonna take my
but if
dead
you-
dog down and let him vote
But if
too.
you've been dead 2 years, you can't vote in Georgia.
That's the way it used to be. Jimmy Carter got that straightened out.
All right, yeah. So,
He said, I heard him tell on Dick Cavett show, I think, that when he was in the legislature, that they fixed it so if you'd been dead over 2 years, you couldn't vote.
Right, you are not allowed to vote. Well, down in Georgia, you know, it's a very critical election's going to happen on January 5th, and because that determines who's going to control the Senate. And if Biden and his bunch get the House with Nancy Pelosi, and they get the Senate with Chuck Schumer and Turbin Durbin, they'll really have it made. You know, they can do all the business they want to with China.
I'll tell you, if they can steal Arizona, Nevada, and Michigan, and Pennsylvania,
They shouldn't have to.
and Georgia, they can steal Georgia again.
Yeah, they steal Georgia one more time, you know. And like I say, I'm anxious to.
I don't
see
know that it's ever come unstoled. May not come unstoled yet.
Yeah, well, you know, they got one. I just don't like the Democratic candidates for Senate at all, you know. And but like I say, they could very well be the ones that tip the balance of power in the Senate. And say we're in for a rough road if they do.
Well, me and you ain't gonna worry too much about it, are we?
I don't think it's going to affect me a whole lot.
The thing about it is, sometimes you have to crash before you can learn to fly again.
Well, yeah, you know.
And sometimes you never manage to get back in the air.
I think these people forgot what it was like under Obama, and
Now, they
his
liked it.
bunch, you know, and where they tried to get made all these apology tours where they went around and apologized for everything that America had been and had stood for the past 50, 60
Well,
years.
let me tell you, if you have wealth handed to you, you can manage to waste it and play and dilly-dally and carry on and still coast on through. But if you don't ever replenish the pot, sooner or later you can't go no further.
Right.
And you can't replenish the pot the way them guys do business.
No. They always taking more out of the pot than they putting in, you know, and you can't give everything to everybody all the time. Now you talking about forgiving student loans, you know. I don't know what they're going to forgive the one I paid off, you know, about a $25,000 one. I don't know what they're going to come back and give me that money or not. They're talking about free tuition, you know. I don't know whether they're going to go back to the time I worked 6 and 7 days a week to pay my room and board and tuition. So, you know.
I'm wanting reparations myself.
Well, you
I'm
know,
wanting them to repay the slave descendants so they can pay rent on this land our relatives had.
You know, I don't know what percentage Indian I am, but it's holding up there pretty good. It's probably about half, you know.
Well, I'm
And,
thinking if you had yours and I had mine, anybody that's descended from slavery gets paid, and anybody that's descended from the people that was here first, I'll get a little something
I ought to
too.
get too.
I just want rent since 1492.
Right,
I'm okay
exactly
before that.
Right. All right. Well, maybe we'll get that, you know. We need to bring that up to Mr. Biden.
Well, I'm sure he'll be sympathetic to our cause.
Well, he's been kind of quiet in a lot of ways. I don't know whether he is fearful that they do have some proof of what shenanigans went on. So, I don't know, really. but I would like to see some of the problems that we've had corrected. As you mentioned the other day, I think we ought to have one-day voting. That we ought to have to vote in person. We ought to have picture ID. And that if there is any...
Well, you know, if you had in-person picture ID with residence, in other words, it's got where you live on it, you don't have to worry about weeding out the dead people.
No.
And you don't have to worry about people that don't live there. That takes care of it right there.
Exactly.
Because if they, well, you don't need to be able to get a driver's license unless you're a legal resident. You don't need to be able to vote if you're dead, and if you've got a picture ID, if you haul somebody in there in a wheelbarrow, you can tell they ain't gonna vote.
Well, it could be like there's a guy that he disappeared, and they found him. He was dead somewhere. They brought him back, and we buried him. And they own mausoleum spaces that we had not built a mausoleum yet. So in terms of agreement, we'd bury him, and when the mausoleum was completed, we'd bring him up, we'd put him in the mausoleum.
Slide him in the drawer.
Well, we buried him, and the time came, we got the mausoleum completed, and we called a funeral director, and he called the family, and they come out there, and we were digging away, and one of the kids says, Grandpa, says, Daddy was buried further up the hill than that. You know, I says, no, this is where he was buried. So we kept digging. We finally brought the vault up, which was a plastic vault, and the only ones we ever sold were blue. And we brought that vault up, and one of the kids says, no, Daddy's vault was gray. So this had been about 5 or 6 years he'd been buried. I said, no. I said, all of our vaults are blue. I said, we won't have any gray vault. So they kept on and on. We got the casket out of the vault, and with the type of casket we had, no water got in. It was dry. And so they kept him hawing around, well, that don't look like Daddy's casket. So finally the undertaker, the funeral director, he got tired of that. He said, well, let's just open it up and see who's in there. So they opened that thing up. And so help me, that guy had been in that casket 5 years. And if you had a woman that liked a man didn't talk too much, she would have gone off with him.
Yeah, held up good, did he?
Yeah, he looked good, yeah. It was him. And the only thing they said was different that his mustache had grown more.
I guess he wasn't good and dead, and they put him in there.
Maybe not, it wasn't ripe anyhow.
I don't know about these things.
Yeah, if they'd liked a man that didn't talk too much, a woman would have gone off with that guy.
I don't want you to bury me, Bob.
I did. Have I told you my burial plans?
No.
Well, I'm building a little mausoleum.
Feet first?
Building a little mausoleum down at the farm. I got my place picked out. I'm going to go down there this spring if I live long enough. And I'm building me a little mausoleum. I may build one with an extra compartment in case some other member of the family wants to be buried there. And when I pass away, all I want them to do is put me in a body bag, take me over and put me in, no embalming, no nothing, you know.
It'd be handy if you just go over there and die and they wouldn't have to haul you
I've been
around.
thinking about moving in their clothes, you know, so you wouldn't have to travel
what you
too
need.
far.
And I told them I wanted them to cremate me and put me a plaque there in the family plot. And I
Right.
wanted to say, I'm not here, I'm going home.
All right.
And they could take my ashes out the farm, scatter them around, and
Right.
everybody would think I thought I'd gone to heaven when I really know I just went to the farm.
Right, there you go.
You know, a feller told me about a obituary in Knoxville recently, and I looked at it. The guy with my name. His daddy had the same name, and his wife.
As you.
Yeah, his wife. He had the same name as me. His daddy had the same name as my daddy, and his wife had the same name as my ex-wife.
How about that?
Kind of spooky.
Well, even though that wasn't you, you ought to at least got honorable mention.
Yeah, I guess. You know, I run into a sign out in Hohenwald, and it had a guy up there, and they're having a benefit for this fella, and had his picture up there. He's going to have a benefit singing. He had cancer, and he didn't have good insurance or something. This has been 2 or 3 years ago, and I just happened to look, and it's my name. So I kind of kept up with him, and last time I thought to check on him, I checked, and saw his obituary, so it didn't work.
Why?
And back about 10, 12 years ago, a fella down here with the same name as me got run over and killed, and I had several people thought I was dead, and I was happy to inform them, and I wasn't. And I told my young'uns, I woke up in the morning and heard that this guy, I'd got killed, and I got the name, and I told my young'uns, they're still going to school down here, and I told them before I took them to school, and now look, you hear I'm dead, I ain't, it's somebody else. And then other people called and checked on me, and I got to thinking about it, and I tried to let everybody know that might hear that it wasn't me, and I had an aunt living in Anderson County, and I didn't even think about her knowing anything about it. And she finally got hold of me the next day. She had lost my phone number, and she said she'd called all day trying to find out if I was dead, and it took till the next day for her finally found out I wasn't dead, and then she managed to get my phone number and called me and made sure I wasn't dead. And I was happy to inform her that the rumors were, you know, a little unfounded.
Exaggerated, yeah. Well, I had something similar to that happen to me. I was inquiring. I had a young man that used to play Little League ball for me, and he operates a septic tank company down in Archdale, North Carolina, which is like about 12 miles north of my farm. I said, well, I'm going to call Charlie up, see what he's got to tell me about putting a septic tank in down at the farm. So I called Charlie and talked to him. He said, let me know when you're ready, and I'll come down. We'll do the whole process. He says, I'll perk it and everything for you, you know, and take care of you. And I said, by the way, how's your mom and dad? Said, well, says mom's in a wheelchair now. Says dad's still getting around. I said, well, give me their number, which he gave me their number. They were pretty close friends of mine back when I lived down there. So I called them up, and they said, Bob, we heard you died about 10 years ago. I said, no, you're not that lucky. I'm still around.
You know, these name confusions can get you in trouble. You know, remember I used to sell engines, and there's no guy calling me looking for an engine. And he was, I believe he was around, he's somewhere in Middle Tennessee, but we got to talking, and I don't remember how it come up, but he said that he moved in this house. He had just moved in this community, moved in this house, and said he was there minding his own business, and the FBI come. And they asked him his name, and he told them, and they took him to jail. He said, somebody with my same name was wanted for murder in another state, and he had lived in that house before I lived there. And he had left, and then I moved in, and they took him to jail, took the wrong guy to jail. And he said, I knew it wasn't me. I figured, well, we'll straighten this out. He said, I was in jail for 3 months. trying to prove I wasn't the guy that killed that fella.
Well, I don't know if you heard on the news tonight, there's some people over in Knoxville, they bought a house that they heard had been owned by a bootlegger.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
No.
And they lived there a couple of years, and he got ready to remodel one of the rooms. And
Yeah.
they were tearing the floor up, and they found 100 and some quarts of moonshine
Yeah.
that had been there over right there 100 years. Okay, and
They needed one of them blind pigs, didn't they?
They sold them for $116 a quart. Sold all of them.
$10,000.
Huh?
That's $10,000. You know, there's an old guy used to come in here. First name is Arnold, and used to be buddies with my daddy. And then he went away. I didn't see him none. Then went on. This went for a few years, and my daddy died. And then I heard or read or something that Arnold died. I did. I read the obituary. Arnold died, and he wasn't seen. And I didn't, Arnold dead. I didn't expect him to be undead.
Right.
And he come in here. It's been about 20 years ago now. But he come in here, and I said, "You're Arnold, ain't you?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I read your obituary 6 or 8, 10 years ago." And he said, "That wasn't me." He said, "I left, moved so-and-so about that time, and this other fella, the same name I had, he died." And a lot of people thought it was me, but it wasn't. Well, I believed him, because I could see he wasn't dead.
Right.
So it went on about 2 months, and I saw in the paper where Arnold died. And I thought, well, at least I got to talk to him, while he was still undead.
Right.
And it wasn't 2 weeks till in come Arnold. And I said, "Arnold?" "Yeah." I said, "I guess that wasn't you, was it?" "It wasn't me, buddy." Well, it wasn't another 6 months till I read it again.
Right.
And I ain't seen him since.
So
I think Arnold's gold.
maybe he lived up to his expectations.
Yep. But first time he died, he left town, and he's in here right often. If he wasn't here hanging around, you'd see him go by and stuff. He had some equipment,
Right.
and you'd kind of see his truck go by, and evidently he sold out and went somewhere else, and maybe retired again and come back to his home place or something.
Right.
But I just knew in my mind he's dead. And turned out he wasn't. Kind of got in the same trouble one time back when I was just a teenager. There was this guy used to come in up the bowling alley, and he'd eat up there some. Of course, just a kid and all, we'd hang around up there some and maybe rake together enough money to get some French fries or something.
Right.
But I asked somebody who he was, and they told me his name, a local politician. And I didn't know. I just thought that's who he was. Every time I saw him, I thought that's who he was. Well, that same guy, I'd see him out at the lake on Sunday. There used to be a beach out there where everybody'd go hang out some. And he'd go down there on Sunday and float around on his inner tube. And then that local politician guy, he drowned. And everybody knew that. Well, I was going to school at the time. I was gone a lot that fall, and I knew that guy was dead. And that guy that I knew was dead was that guy that I knew to be that feller. And I was in there at the bowling alley around Christmas, and in walked that feller. And I thought, well, and then I kind of worked it over in my head and figured out that I'd been misinformed as to his identity.
About who was who.
Yeah, but that's a shock when you see that dead man walk in. That's about as bad as Arnold.
Yeah, well,
Arnold was a walking dead.
well, these people that thought I had died, I hadn't seen them in 20 years, so they had good reason maybe to believe I died. I said no, and I used to take all them kids down to the farm. I had a swimming hole in the creek down there.
Yeah.
I'd take her boy and all the whole crowd down there. I know the first time I took them to the farm, I had 3 casualties in the first 30 minutes.
All drowned?
No, one cut his jaw. You had rope swinging out over the
Yeah.
river. One cut his jaw, and then another one sprang his ankle.
Yeah.
And, well, we had a good time.
It sounds like everybody's having a bang that time, but you.
I was running them to the emergency room.
You go to the emergency room for stuff like that. It's a good thing you didn't have a dog to trip over.
That's true. Yeah,
Our poor president, he ain't gonna make it.
don't think so.
Nah, I don't know.
Well, have you got everything planned out for Christmas?
I'd like to survive.
Yeah, I hope I will. I may go down to North Carolina a little bit for a few days right before Christmas. I'm thinking about it. And
I'd like to go over to the beach, but I don't guess we'll go. I'm kind of leery of going places because I don't know what's going to be shut down.
why? All right. Well, you can call down there at the Sanitary Cafe and find out.
You know, their food ain't good no more.
Not as good. I bet it's not as good.
It
as
ain't.
used to be.
There's as much difference now in, well, I guess it's been 40 years, but the
Right.
thing's been there for 100 years, ain't it?
Probably.
Well, you know, 40 years ago, you go over there and you get a platter and they bring you out some of the finest food, fresh, heaped up, good.
Right.
And one of them big platters back then, probably about $6 or $8.
Right.
And you could eat on it for a week if you could keep it from spoiling. And
Yeah.
I went over there. I'd been laying by to go over there for years, and I finally went in and got over there about 3 or 4 years ago, and I went in there and it wasn't nothing like it was before. You get better food at Red Lobster.
Well, I don't know about that. I went in the Red Lobster down in where was it? That may have been in Daytona, Florida.
Yeah, probably where they had so many tourists they didn't care.
Daytona, and I forget what I ordered, but so help me, I believe they went across the street to the grocery store and got some frozen fish and brought it back over and cooked it, 'cause it took them that long and it was terrible.
Well, you know, I've never got any bad food at Red Lobster. Of course, there's only one Burger King that I ever went to that it didn't suit me. You know, you don't expect miracles at Burger King.
Right.
But there's one particular place that I used to go to some, and their food wasn't nearly as good as it was everywhere else. And I'm sure their Red Lobster's that way too. But I've never got food at Red Lobster that wasn't better than what you can get over at Sanitary now.
Right.
But
Yeah.
now they used to, boy, they had a spread there at one time.
I've been like 60 years ago, maybe.
There's a place there.
Maybe more than
Yeah.
I probably was there 65 years ago.
Well, there's a place there in Beaufort called the Front Street Grill. Of course, they ain't open in the winter. They got pretty good food.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah. Have you been to Beaufort, South Carolina?
You mean Beaufort?
Beaufort. Well, Beaufort.
Beaufort, North Carolina, and Beaufort, South Carolina. No, I don't reckon.
Yeah, I've been to both of them. I like.
They're spelled the same.
I like Beaufort, North Carolina better.
You know, I was trying to puzzle it over. Ike's been running down some family ties, and my great, I guess, grandfather was born in Orange County, North Carolina.
Okay, that's right down below Randolph County where I live.
Yeah, it's there in Alamance.
Yeah.
Orange County, and then they cut it in two and made this eastern side of Alamance County because
yeah.
it was so big.
Right, yeah.
Well, anyway, he's run down the details on this, and I was trying to figure out when that feller moved over here. He's buried out here at Maryville.
Right.
And I was trying to work out when he moved here, and I thought maybe I could do that by figuring out where his young'uns is born.
Right.
Well, I got one of them born in 1770, was born in Tennessee. And then he had, I think, 3 more born after that was born in North Carolina. And I couldn't figure that out, because why would you come over here and have a kid and then just and have a home here and go back to North Carolina just to have a kid every few years? And I puzzled over that, but I finally solved the problem. Do you know what the answer is? Well, until 1796, this was North Carolina.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Oh, so the one that's listed in Tennessee was probably born in Tennessee before it was Tennessee.
Right.
And the other 3 was born in the same place and realized it was still part of North Carolina.
Right. Okay.
You know, North Carolina used to go to Mississippi.
Yeah, well, no, they used to go to the West Coast.
Well, they didn't count anything across Mississippi as ours. We hadn't bought it from Napoleon yet.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, you know, Andrew Jackson, being from here, went to North Carolina and was part of the government there.
Now, he was born in South Carolina.
Yeah, I think he was. And he had a law office there in the community I was raised in, his first law office.
I've been reading about him, and he, my opinion of him has changed a whole lot. They give him a hard time because of the way he treated the Cherokee and the Chickasaw and the Creeks and Muskogees. But
and also that half bunch of Indians down in Florida.
yeah, Seminoles.
Yeah.
They wasn't really a tribe. They was just a collection of people that left and went down there and hid.
Right.
But there's a whole lot more to that story. You get to thinking about it, there's a whole different ball game back then.
Right.
I
Different times.
I don't know just exactly when this area here got to be fairly safe from Indians, but that great something grandpa that I told you about died in 1820, I think.
Right.
So he'd lived here for a pretty good while, and in violation of the law, really, when he come here, I guess. But I don't know. They were still having the Indian wars out in west middle Tennessee and then down into Mississippi. They went down there at Horseshoe Bend and wiped out them creeks.
Right.
And that was the most dead Indians in any battle ever.
Really?
In one day. Yeah, it was the biggest. They had the biggest number of casualties, I think, approaching 1,000.
Right.
And it wasn't. They didn't just go down there and beat up a bunch of kids and children. I mean, women and kids. They were actually fighting a battle.
Right.
And Jackson wore them out.
Right.
In 1813, then he went on down to 1814, and got ready trying to outfox the British, and finally they landed there in January of 1815, and he whooped them, but the war was over and they didn't know it.
Yeah. Like I say, I don't know, but what if all this communication we have nowadays is good or not, you know.
It may not be.
Okay.
You got anything else you want to lie about before we leave, Bob? I'm running out of lies.
I just want to wish everybody a real Merry Christmas. I hope you have a real prosperous New Year, and
Send us some.
Yeah.
We need an airplane.
There we go. Yeah, if you would send, all you folks out there would send us a check for what, $6,000?
Yeah, we just need 1,000 of you to send a $6,000 check, and we can get a used airplane.
Yeah, we would, and probably could hire us a pilot.
Yeah.
I bet you could buy one of them 737 Maxes fairly cheap, you reckon?
Get one of them that's grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, folks.
Yeah, but we'll see you for then, I guess.
Yeah,
Happy
we'll see you
birthday,
again
Ronnie.
next week. See you, yeah, Ronnie.